Warsaw, Poland, May 25, 1948. A man is led down a hallway.
Forward.
He is 46 years old. He has survived the Nazi invasion of Poland. He has survived almost 1,000 days inside the most notorious death camp in human history. He survived the Warsaw Uprising. He survived a German prisoner of war camp. He survived the liberation. He did not survive his own government. His name was Witold Pilecki, and he was executed not by the Nazis, but by the communist government of the country he had given everything to save. September 1, 1939. Nazi Germany invades Poland. The attack comes from the west. 2 days later, the Soviet Union invades from the east. Poland, a nation of 35 million people, is caught in a vice between two of the most brutal regimes in human history. Warsaw falls on September 27. Within weeks, Poland ceases to exist as a country. What follows is one of the most systematic campaigns of murder and oppression ever inflicted on a civilian population. The Nazis begin rounding up Polish Jews, intellectuals, professors, priests, and resistance members. They are taken east, to camps. In June 1940, the Nazis open a new facility on the outskirts of the Polish town of Auschwitz. The Germans call it Auschwitz. At first, it is a concentration camp primarily for Polish political prisoners. A place of forced labor, starvation, and brutal punishment. It will become something far worse. But in 1940, the full horror is not yet known to the outside world. The Polish underground knows people are going in. Nobody is coming out. They need someone on the inside. Witold Pilecki was born on May 13, 1901, in Auschwitz, Russia, to a Polish family living under Russian occupation. From the beginning, his life was defined by resistance. He fought in the Polish-Soviet War of 1920 as a teenager. He became a cavalry officer. He married. He had 2 children. He ran an estate in eastern Poland and was, by all accounts, a man who lived for his family and his country in equal measure. When Germany invaded in 1939, Pilecki fought immediately, first in the September campaign against the Germans, then in the resistance that formed underground when the occupation began. By 1940, Pilecki was a member of the secret Polish army, one of the earliest and most organized resistance groups in occupied Europe. Reports were coming in about Auschwitz. People were disappearing inside. But the outside world, including the British and the Americans, had no verified intelligence about what was actually happening there. The Polish underground needed an eyewitness. Someone who could get inside, organize resistance, document what was happening, and get reports out. There was only one way to get into Auschwitz. You had to be arrested. Witold Pilecki volunteered. Let that sink in for a moment. Every person who has ever ended up in Auschwitz fought with everything they had to avoid it. Witold Pilecki chose to go. On September 19, 1940, Pilecki walked into a known Nazi street roundup. He had a false identity documents in the name of Tomasz Surafowski, an ordinary Polish worker. He carried no weapons. He made no attempt to run. He allowed himself to be arrested. 2 days later, on the night of September 21st, he was loaded onto a transport with hundreds of other prisoners. Destination: Auschwitz. A train in the dark, moving east. As the train moved through the Polish night, Pilecki knew exactly what he was heading toward. He had seen the reports. He knew the guards were brutal. He knew the conditions were lethal. He also knew that someone had to do it. So he sat in the dark with the other prisoners, and he made a plan. September 22, 1940, Witold Pilecki arrived at Auschwitz. He was stripped of his clothes, his name, and his identity. He was given a number, 4859. The average life expectancy of a prisoner inside Auschwitz was 42 days. starvation, disease, forced labor, random execution, beatings, the weather, 42 days. Pilecki would last 947. The conditions were beyond anything most people can imagine. Prisoners were worked until they collapsed, food was deliberately insufficient. Disease spread through the overcrowded barracks. The SS guards exercised total, casual brutality. Men died every day, every hour. And in the middle of all of it, Pilecki watched, catalogued, remembered. He was building something.
Keep it secret. They're watching us. We have to take the chance. It's too risky.
Within weeks of his arrival, Pilecki had made contact with other prisoners willing to resist. He was extraordinarily careful. One wrong move, and he would be shot. He approached men slowly, quietly, testing trust before revealing anything. Gradually, he built an underground network inside the camp cell by cell, person by person. He called it COW's Związek Organizacji Wojskowych, the Union of Military Organizations. At its peak, thou had hundreds of members throughout the camp. Prisoners gathered intelligence, protected one another, sabotaged Nazi operations where they could, and most critically passed information to the outside world. But getting information out of Auschwitz was almost as dangerous as being there. Pilecki used released prisoners, camp workers, and a network of contacts stretching back to Warsaw to get his reports out. His first report was delivered to Warsaw in October 1940. It was the first verified account of what was happening inside Auschwitz. And it was only the beginning. Over the next 2.5 years, Pilecki compiled and smuggled out some of the most important intelligence documents of the entire war. He described the gas chambers, the selection process, the medical experiments, the systematic starvation, the execution wall. His reports were the first comprehensive, verified account of a Nazi death camp to reach the Allied governments. The reports reached the Polish government in exile in London. They were shared with British intelligence, they were passed to the Americans. And then, almost nothing happened. The Allies acknowledged receiving the reports. They knew what was happening at Auschwitz. They had detailed, first-hand intelligence from a man living inside the camp. They did not bomb the railway lines leading to Auschwitz. They did not attempt a rescue operation. They did not make the extermination of Jews and Poles a military priority. By the time the war ended, over 1 million people had been murdered at Auschwitz alone. Pilecki, still inside, kept writing. By early 1943, Pilecki faced a choice. He had been inside for 2.5 years. His network was strong. His reports were going out. But the Nazis were tightening security and he had reason to believe he was coming under suspicion. He had gathered everything he could from inside. Now he needed to get out, to personally deliver his full report. On the night of April 26, 1943, Pilecki was assigned to a night shift at the Camp Bakery, a building that sat just outside the main fence perimeter. This was the moment. Together with 2 fellow prisoners. And ran. They ran through the night, through fields, through forests, covering miles before dawn broke. Within days, Pilecki had reached Bochnia, then Warsaw. After 947 days inside Auschwitz, Witold Pilecki was free. In August 1943, back in Warsaw, Pilecki completed what would become known as Witold's report. Over 100 pages, meticulous, devastating, the most comprehensive first-hand account of a Nazi death camp ever written. He described everything. The selections, the gas chambers, the crematoria, the numbers, the names, the methods. He pushed for a light action, he pleaded, he argued. The response from London was the same as before: acknowledgement, delay, inaction. Pilecki didn't stop. In August 1944, the Warsaw Uprising began.
Be careful.
Pilecki fought.
Right here. This is where we make our stand. Tell the men to prepare the charges. We crossed
For 63 days, Polish fighters held
open.
parts of Warsaw.
They'll see us. We don't have a choice. It's the fastest route to the resistance.
On October 2, 1944, the uprising was crushed. Warsaw was systematically destroyed building by building. Pilecki surrendered and was sent to a German prisoner of war camp. He survived that too. In April 1945, American forces liberated his camp. Witold Pilecki had survived the impossible, 3 times over. The war was over, but Poland was not free. The Soviet Union had installed a communist government in Warsaw. Pilecki refused to accept it. He stayed in Poland as an intelligence agent, gathering information, passing reports back to London. He was still doing the only thing he had ever known how to do, fighting for a free Poland. On May 8, 1947, the Communist Security Services arrested him. What followed was a nightmare that rivaled anything he had endured at Auschwitz. He was tortured, interrogated for months, pressed to sign a confession. Eventually, under torture, he signed. The trial was a formality, the verdict was predetermined. Witold Pilecki was convicted of treason against Poland. He was sentenced to death. On May 25, 1948, Witold Pilecki was shot. He was 46 years old. His body was buried in secret. The location of his grave has never been found. For 40 years under communist rule, Witold Pilecki did not exist. His name was struck from history books. His story was classified. His family was forbidden to speak about him. When Poland finally broke free from communism in 1989, the truth began to emerge. Pilecki was formally rehabilitated. His report was published. Schools began teaching his name. Today, Witold Pilecki is considered one of the greatest heroes in Polish history. Think about what he did. He volunteered for Auschwitz. He built a resistance network. He escaped. He fought in the Warsaw Uprising. He survived 3 imprisonments. And when the world he had saved turned against him, he stood with the same calm. Before his execution, Pilecki reportedly said, "I've been trying to live my life so that in the hour of my death I would rather feel joy than fear." History buried him for 40 years. Now you know his name. Witold Pilecki walked into Auschwitz on purpose and the world almost forgot him anyway. If this story moved you, share it with someone who should hear it. Subscribe to Valor Nerd.